All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive cycle of political earthquakes and geopolitical whiplash all crashing into each other at the exact same time. We're literally watching 50-year political dynasties topple, post-election street battles breaking out, and high-stakes Middle Eastern diplomacy that's sending shockwaves straight into your stock portfolio. So let's break down exactly how these seemingly disconnected events are completely rewriting the rules of global stability.
A Gen Z revolution. I mean, that phrase perfectly captures the sheer magnitude of what just went down in South India. But honestly, the aftershocks of today's news stretch all the way to Tehran. This isn't just your routine, everyday politics. It's a fundamental, systemic rejection of the status quo. Voters and citizens across the globe are demanding radical change. And well, they're definitely not asking politely anymore.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. Tamil Nadu's political earthquake. 2. The race to 118. 3. The cost of populism. 4. West Bengal's post-poll crisis. 5. U.S.-Iran, peace or protests. And 6. Markets in the crossfire. Starting off with Section 1, Tamil Nadu's political earthquake. Let's get into it. For over half a century, the DMK and AIDMK parties have absolutely dominated Tamil Nadu. It was basically a locked system. But then, superstar actor Vijay launches his brand new party, the TVK, and completely shatters that establishment on his very first try. Grabbing a massive 35% vote share and 108 seats, he effectively mobilized millions of cinematic fan club members into this grassroots political army basically overnight. People wanted a fresh face untainted by traditional money politics, and Vijay absolutely delivered.
Just to put the gravity of this into perspective, think about the timeline here. Since 1967, power has essentially been a closed loop between two heavyweights. Even when the AIEDM caste split from the DMK back in 1972, the core duopoly itself remained entirely untouched for decades. Fast forward to 2026, and boom, TVK's blockbuster debut marks the end of a 50-year era. But, as we all know, shaking up the establishment and actually running a government are two very, very different beasts.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, the race to 118.
118. That right there is the magic number. It's the absolute minimum threshold required for a majority in the 234-seat Tamil Nadu Assembly. Without hitting this exact mark, forming a stable, constitutional government is literally impossible. So here's the giant math headache keeping TVK awake at night. They won 108 seats. Amazing, right? But because Vijay won 2 constituencies and constitutionally has to resign from one, his actual working number is 107. That leaves him exactly 11 seats short. Now, the Congress Party has offered its 5 seats, but it comes with conditions, and even then, that only gets him to 112. So right now, he's desperately scrambling to cobble together alliances with regional players like the VCK and the left, all while the governor is demanding hard, written proof before letting anyone take the oath.
Moving on to Section 3, the cost of populism.
1. Lakh, crore, rupees. Or roughly $12 billion US, guys. If TVK actually goes through with all its electoral promises, it's going to drop this massive annual financial anvil onto a state that is already swimming in debt. To really grasp that number, it's 52% more than the state's entire current welfare budget. It's an astronomical sum that would devour about a third of the state's total revenue. To break a 50-year monopoly, you kind of have to promise the moon. But eventually, that bill is going to come due. The math behind these promises is just wild. We are talking 47,000 crores annually just for cash transfers to over 1.5 crore women. Add in nearly 10,000 crores for free LPG cylinders, and then, get this, an incredibly specific pledge to provide 8-gram gold rings for brides from low-income families. At current gold prices, you're looking at over 3,000 crore rupees just to act as the state's biggest jeweler. Seriously, how does a brand new government balance this without completely bankrupting the state?
All right, shifting gears to Section 4, West Bengal's post-poll crisis.
As we pivot over to the east, we are facing 2 completely irreconcilable realities. On one side, the TMC, led by outgoing Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, flat out refuses to concede. They are alleging a stolen election, claiming institutional capture, and that 32 lakh voter names were manipulated. On the flip side, the victorious BJP is asserting this is a pure historic mandate. They argue that voters overwhelmingly rejected the incumbent over corruption and violence, pointing to the massive swing in seats as absolute proof. And this standoff, it's bleeding right into the streets. With the chief minister breaking tradition and refusing to resign, we're seeing intense flare-ups of post-poll violence and arson. It's gotten so tense that the Home Ministry has deployed a massive 700 CRPF paramilitary companies just to hold the line. The Assembly's tenure is expiring, which puts the governor on the clock to step in and force a transfer of power in an incredibly volatile environment. Let's zoom out to the global stage for Section 5, U.S.-Iran, peace or protests. Take a listen to this quote from Donald Trump regarding the recent negotiations. He says, "We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours, and it's very possible that we'll make a deal." From the U.S. perspective, there is this sudden, immense wave of optimism. Leadership is floating a memorandum that could theoretically end hostilities, unfreeze billions of dollars, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz for global shipping in exchange for pausing nuclear enrichment. It would be a massive breakthrough. If, and that's a huge if, they can actually agree on the details. But then, you have to juxtapose that boardroom optimism with the raw reality on the ground in Tehran. For 60 days, citizens have been occupying Palestine Square. And let me tell you, they aren't asking for a deal. They are showing absolute solidarity with their government and echoing fierce anti-imperialist sentiments. They are signaling literally zero fear of potential U.S. or Israeli strikes. It is a stunning contrast, peace frameworks being drafted in Washington versus absolute unyielding defiance in Iran. And finally, Section 6, markets in the crossfire. So, how does all this global whiplash hit your wallet? It creates a very direct domino effect. Step 1. Rumors of that U.S.-Iran peace deal hit the newswires. Step 2. The global commodities market reacts instantly, dragging Brent crude oil from highs of $125 straight down below $100 a barrel. Step 3. This massive dip in oil injects wild volatility into the Indian markets. The Nifty surged up to test 24,500, only to violently give up those gains and fall backward in a ridiculously choppy session. Meanwhile, the corporate sector is flying through its own distinct turbulence. On one hand, the government is trying to cash in by divesting a massive 10,000 crore rupee stake in Coal India. At the same time, Air India is in full emergency mode, unbundling services to try and stop a bleeding 22,000 crore rupee loss. Yet somehow, completely bucking the trend, Bharat Forge is projecting an optimistic 25% revenue growth, assuming, of course, that none of the global crises we just discussed derail the whole shebang. We've seen a 50-year dynasty broken by an actor, incredibly tense democratic standoffs in Bengal, and the threat of wars swaying global oil prices by the hour. So you really have to ask yourself, are these just the messy, localized growing pains of a new, more stable era? Or are we watching the very first dominoes fall in a decade of unprecedented global volatility? Because one thing is for sure, the old rules just don't apply anymore. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the narratives, and we'll keep watching the